Today we have a guest co-host today. Mary Riposo is a life purpose guide who can help you discover who you are at a soul level and what you are meant to do with your life. Mary has developed a simple and effective method that anyone can use to receive spiritual guidance by accessing their own Akashic records. When you see the bigger picture of your life, your soul plan unfolds before your eyes, and you finally understand where you've been, where you're going, and why you are here now. Mary's wise and gentle manner, coupled with her keen intuitive abilities, cause her to be sought after as a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive consultant to clients worldwide. And you can learn more about Mary at integratedenergyhealing.com. www.integratedenergyhealing.com. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Sheila. Great to be here.
I'm really glad that you're here today. I'm excited to have a conversation with you. The Akashic Records is something that so closely entwines with the work that I do with people, and at the same time is a slightly different avenue than I focus on. So it's a wonderful supplement to have you here today. And can you tell us just a little bit about the Akashic Records?
Sure. Basically, the Akashic Records are a dimension of consciousness. So they contain more of a vibrational record of every soul and its journey. You can understand the Akashic Records as the higher self or the universal mind. They exist at the fifth dimensional level of consciousness. So the level of information at the universal mind. And basically, the records are more of an experiential body of knowledge. So when you tap into the records, you can access everything that every soul has ever thought, said, and done over the course of its existence. So all the way through every past life as well as into the future possibilities for that soul. So it's an amazing storage house of information. You could think of it as a library of information, the DNA of the universe. It's pretty infinite.
I really like the way you describe that, because I think that sometimes when people hear of the Akashic Records, they have a misunderstanding of that, in the sense that maybe because we are here on Earth, it's sometimes perceived as much more linear, and your description of that being sort of an imprint or an expansion of energy about all that has ever occurred. In my words, I guess that would also be tapping into the Enchanted One, where that space of it's complete silence, it's beyond our thoughts, and yet we can access from that space everything that we would ever want to access.
Exactly.
So having that understanding, let's just stay there for a minute, because I think that it's actually really important for people to get that concept that even though we're accessing, and you through your Akashic Records are accessing past information and future information, it's still very permeable or fluid in its interpretation, but also in the way it plays out. So someone looking at this might say, well, if you can access the future of my Akashic Records, why do I even make decisions? Everything's already lined out in front of me. What would you have to say with that?
Well, every action that you take in what we call our current time or our current reality will ripple out to the past and the future. So you have the ability right now to co-create your reality, and that will ripple out into what is going to be perceived to happen in the future, as well as resolving past difficulties. So it's so important, as you know, with being part of the co-creator network, we have the ability to do that right here and now. So it's, and we have completely free will. So everything that we do is so powerful right in the moment.
I think I like that about you as well and about your mission and your sort of passion. And when people come to me and say, can you do past life readings? Can you predict the future? Can you read the Akashic Records? All of those things, I always explain, just as you are now, that I am only interested in accessing what can help you in this moment now. So when we move back into the past lives, then we're wanting not necessarily not just to just go back and see the movie screen because it's interesting and we can claim who we were, but also we're just weaving back and gathering out that information that's going to help in the moment. So patterns or anything that may help you to be more conscious in the moment. Is that what you find? I'm sure that's what you find you do in your work too. Maybe you can expand on that from your perspective.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that. And when I do work within the records with my spirit guides, that's the information that comes out. People will often be confused about the fact that they may get a reading from someone, a past life reading that has some information in it that's different than what someone else will read for them. And they'll wonder whether one is true and one's not true, or if someone's really tapping in and the other person is not. But wherever that client or person is in that moment, what I do as a practitioner is I go in and I will pull on a thread in terms of what they're dealing with right now and what's the most important, relevant piece that they will be able to be open to, taking action on, and helping them to understand what the patterns have been maybe in their previous lifetimes that have led to this, and what they can do right now to start to resolve that, start to move forward, receive understanding and insight. So I would totally agree with what you're saying.
That's great. I love the way you describe that. As you were speaking, I started to think of it's slightly changing the subject, and yet it's continuing on with the whole issue of the past lives. And like we both said, we were accessing this information to help us in the moment, just like if we come up upon a situation in our life right now, we may kind of scan back through our current life and see where we've had a pattern going that may not be as helpful to us as others, and so that we can sort of get some more insight on it. One of the things I found right now as we're moving into the energy shift of 2012, which is not exactly 2012, but this time of shift right now, and the awakening that's happening in so many people, is that we also have to then be careful not to get caught up in going back to the past for everything and thinking that we still have something to heal with everything that we see. Are you picking up on that in your work as well?
Yeah, I totally am. Really recently, people have been ready to hear the information that there is nothing to be healed. Right. We are perfect the way that we are, and all of our experiences are things that we have that, we are using for our spiritual growth. So even if it feels like a difficult experience and we think, oh, this is quote-unquote karmic, because people tend to think that that's about retribution. Really, the perception of that being a negative thing is only a human perception, and it's part of the ego. And if we do move into our higher self, into the Enchanted One consciousness, we understand that there really is no separation and there's nothing to be healed. So we move into that more of a sixth-dimensional level of consciousness, which is the non-duality or oneness.
How has that shifted your work over the last year or months or so as you're feeling that? Or are you still in process of that shift? I think I'm still in process of that shift.
Yeah, I definitely am. And, I'm serving whoever is coming in front of me, but I'm noticing that as I move forward and move into more of a sixth-dimensional level, I'm attracting clients that are ready for that, or I'm helping clients to move up to that as well. And, it's less about providing information and satisfying people's curiosity and helping them to really understand the bigger picture, and it really goes toward that, really the message of oneness. That's really the only way to say it.
Right. I agree with you. So then the
So
Akashic
abstract.
Records become almost
Yeah.
the springboard into that, right?
Right.
As you're working. Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
about teaching.
And it's a pretty exciting time that we're shifting and that we're seeing this shift, not only in our own personal lives, but in the people that are attracted and doing the work with us.
It's amazing. And I think that as we get closer and closer, as we're shifting more and ascending more into a higher level of consciousness, um, I always say the veil is thinning in a way, but as we raise our spiritual vibration, more is accessible to us. So a lot of people are having these experiences and not really understanding what they are, so they're looking for guidance on that.
And like me, you're also interested in not only doing this for others, but teaching them to do this as well. So you actually help people to learn how to read their own Akashic records, correct?
Yes, and that is more of a recent thing. It came to me not through a training program, but through my spiritual exploration. And for a while, that was where my work was. And then as my clients, moved forward, they started to ask me, well, can I do this for myself? And I thought, well, I can't see why you can't do it, but I don't know how to show you how to do this. So I worked with my spirit guides and said, if this is an alignment for me, give me the resources to help people to do this. And I really did download a whole system to help people do this for themselves. And I think that has been really fulfilling because it really is our birthright to be able to access all of what we are at soul level and not to give that over to someone else.
Exactly. And I love even listening to what you said about how you came upon this not by what you read or what you learned in teachings, but by your own spiritual journey, because that's exactly how I came to do what I do as well. And it's that connection to spirit that allowed us to access all the information. And then we can so the greatest gift we can give others is to teach them to find, like you did, to go into your spirit guides and to download, to find the way to teach that path to other people.
Yes, it's a really an amazing service. And I just, surrender to it because I don't know where it's going, but wherever it is going, it really seems to be this wonderful process that unfolds in front of my eyes, and I'm part of it. And it's really cool.
Can you give just a little example? I know people would need to connect with you, and I think you have a class coming up that we want to announce too about this. But a little bit, a taste of what that means, because I can think that listeners might be like, "Well, sure, she downloaded this information, she's going to teach me," but that just seems so vague to me. I don't know if I could do it. So I know that it's much more concrete and easily accessible because I know your guides would only have given you what people could learn. Can you give some reassurance just by giving them a little bit of an idea of what that mystery is?
Oh, sure. I know all of this is very abstract and it's hard to put into concrete terms a lot of the time. Well, when you are tapping into the Akashic Records, it really is very different than if you're reading someone's aura or reading their thoughts or their emotions and things like that. You can do psychic readings for people in that way, but when you're looking at their record, you're looking at their history, their life lessons, their patterns, and things like that. So it's very specific information that you're getting. So it is a very different process than just opening yourself up to intuition, which is what a lot of programs for, spiritual development and intuitive development are doing. And there are a lot of different training programs, I think, out there for learning to read the Akashic Records. One of the ways that my program is different is that I am focusing on helping the person to read their own record first. And for the most part, the other programs are teaching you how to give readings without even having looked at your own record. So for me, it's all about healing because that's where I come from. I'm more of a healer than anything else, I think. That's my basis.
Mm-hmm.
So my focus is helping you to understand who you are at soul level and connecting with that oneness. And then if you ever want to offer that as a service to others, that's the next step. But my method of doing it is to help people start from where they are and to raise their spiritual vibration to the point where they can begin to visualize. We do some journeying to the etheric temple that is the Hall of Records on the other side. It's one of the temples on the other side, which means that we're journeying to the fifth dimensional level of consciousness. And I do that through, a process of journeying. It's like a meditation. I will guide people there. And then at that point, I will connect them with their own spirit guide and we all have a spirit guide that will help us access our higher self. It's like that bridge or connecting point. And the way I focus on it is with spirit guide assistance. So at that point, their guide will help them to access their Akashic record, the information in their record. And really, in a certain way, it's like having assistance on the other side, almost as if you're going into a library and saying, I need to look this up, but I don't know where to go, what floor to go to. Your guide will help you access that particular piece of information in your record. And so there's the process of how to interpret it and what to do with that. There's a lot of action planning that takes place once you start to understand what you're receiving as far as information. So it's really specific. And I've taught hundreds of people already how to do this. And people, that are very skeptical and say, I have no idea, it's interesting to me, but I've never done anything like this before, are amazed at the information that they get and the insight and the healing to the point that they feel that they're connected with everyone and everything at the end. So it's amazing to me to see the process that people go through. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to me, and I think it will make perfect sense to the listeners as well, which could be two different things. Absolutely. And it sounds like a wonderful and easy technique, and I think that is one of the things we both have in common is that desire to simplify and take away the mysticism of this work and realize it's actually a very natural space to be in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's part of my purpose here. Part of my sacred purpose is to bring the spiritual teachings down to earth and help people to become empowered and manifest that here. And, that means distilling it into an easy method, demystifying it, and helping people to realize that this is something that everybody can do.
Exactly. Do you have any examples, either from accessing your own records or that you've done for somebody else that shows how it can be helpful in the now?
Oh, sure. One of the ladies who came to one of my workshops recently was coming in, and she had just been diagnosed with this really rare form of cancer. And she was really frightened and going through all kinds of tests, and she hadn't started treatment yet. And she had signed up for this one of my workshops before this ever happened. So timing was really interesting. And she came and she said, I'm coming just because a friend of mine wanted to come, but I really didn't think it was for me. Of course, it always is. We don't always know it. And she had the most amazing experience. She was able to go into and experience one of her past lives where she was actually poisoned in terms of radiation poisoning from some kind of government thing that was happening. So the government was, experimenting, and the people of that time in that place were being affected in ways that they didn't realize. And she died from that radiation poisoning in that lifetime. And in this lifetime, she was experiencing something that this cancer was because of impurities in her body. She was developing these tumors around, and they were actually covering and keeping these poisons away from her bloodstream. Mm. And so basically, one of the lessons that she learned was that there are some things in her environment that she has to really pay attention to. And she was putting herself in situations that she, in this lifetime, that she just wasn't really aware of, that they were harmful to her. So she actually realized that. She had the treatment. It was successfully treated, and she's doing great now. And she's cleaned up her diet, and she's cleaned up her environment, and her health is really vibrant. But she needed to understand that this was something that had happened to her previously, and she died from it, and she wasn't aware of it at all. She had no idea that she was, getting sick and she would pass away at a young age because of this. Now she's really advocating for, cleaner earth and all kinds of things like that. So it's really she's understanding her purpose here. She's understanding how to, help herself and how to help others. And it was a pretty amazing transformation for someone who said, I don't really know why I'm here. I don't do this kind of thing. Yeah. So I have a million examples, but these are things that are just amazing to see and to be witness to.
Yeah, I think that's so exciting to be able to watch that unfold. And a lot of what you said in there pointed out what we're trying to say, that I think you said it earlier, that nothing is bad. It's how we define it. So even this cancer ends up being the gateway to her completely finding her life purpose and bringing health and passion into her life. And that's what you're trying to go in and help people to understand, not to feel any punishment or get stuck in the old patterns or to feel unhealed, but to realize that no matter what situation they're in this moment, when you access the higher knowledge of it, then you actually see the beauty in it. I think that's what you're saying. Is that
absolutely. And everything is just an opportunity to go into oneness. And so we can either feel separation, and she could have thought, God has abandoned me, or, this life is over, or something like that, and just, wanted to die. But she was willing to, at the soul level, open herself up to that, and she showed up for it, and she received what she needed. And then she went through the process of taking action. So even if, I'm sure you see this in your practice too, sometimes we tell people things and we share that information, but they take it in, but they don't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And it's really important to take the action as well, to get that information and to take action in the third dimension in our lives in order to make the changes.